What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm here to break down the NASCAR Cup Series slate for Talladega. One of the most exciting races of the year, in my opinion, is Talladega, the playoff race. It's just always, really intense racing, really stressful racing for a lot of the playoff drivers, except for Kurt Busch this week and Denny Hamlin, who have already clinched their spots into the next round. But for everyone else, a bad wreck in this race could really screw you over, and you're gonna have to win next week at the Roval. And then there's guys like Austin Dillon, who's like terrible at the Roval, and who is gonna really want to win here, and that's pretty much it for him. So a lot to get into. But before I do, if you're new here, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, turn on the notification bell. All this stuff's just one little click. Really helps me grow the channel. I've had a lot of growth throughout the entire year. So and if you want to get more of my content, you can always subscribe to my Patreon. I'll put the link in the description below. For only $10 a month, you're going to get articles for every single race, every week, for all three series combined, along with a cheat sheet with all the projections you need to know. As you see, the optimal lineups right there. All the stats you need to know with the projections on that cheat sheet, if I said that. And then you're also going to get cash cores and rankings for every single race. So be sure to check that out. But yeah, I think that's really all I got to say. Let's get into this video where usually we just talk about picks, but today I'm going to go over lineup construction because I think it's just so much more important than ever. The first thing that we're going to notice when we look at roster construction for Talladega, this is actually for Talladega and Daytona. These are the last, I believe 10 plate races. It's every single plate race from 2018 to now, except for the summer 2019 Daytona race where it got rain shortened and like literally the whole field was wrecked. It was just like Justin Haley won. Like the optimal lineup had like a salary of like 20,000. So that one's way, like, all these races are outliers anyway, but that one was way too much of an outlier for me to really want to include. But these are all the races. So if we go look at the salaries in the optimal lineups, 42, 47, 41, 47, 46, 45, 43, 46, 45, 45. None of them were even close to filling out the salary cap. Not one of them was even at $48,000 or $49,000. So this is going to be a race where you don't need to do that. I mean, you can. I think you'll be fine if you do, but you don't need to do that because this is a track where literally everybody on the track, except for maybe 4 or 5 drivers, has a realistic chance of winning this race. So you are going to want to fill out you don't need to fill out your the salary cap. You just need to fill out the roster that you think is the best way to go. And then the other thing I like to look at for these races is I like to look at the starting range in the optimal lineups. So a lot of strategy that people are going to tell you all week is to stack the back. Now, what I'm about to talk about is GPP lineup construction. If you are playing cash game for NASCAR, then yeah, I would just stack the back. I would literally only play drivers that start at back of the field, like 25th on back. That's it. Because it's going to be a race. There's going to be a ton of wrecks. There's not going to be a lot of cars that are going to finish, and the guys in the back are going to move up, and they don't have as much to lose. They have a much higher floor than the guys starting up front. If you're playing anybody in the top 15 in cash, you're honestly just crazy. It could work out for you, but it's not the optimal approach in my opinion, and pretty much in most people's opinions, that's not the optimal approach for plate races. But in GBPs, to win a tournament, you do not want to just stack the back because not every single driver up front is going to wreck. There are going to be guys that hang around up front. I mean, the winner is more than likely. I mean, most of the time we don't really get an upset winner from the back. It's going to be, your Brian Blaney's or your Loganos or Brad Keselowski's or Kyle Busch's, even though he sucks here, but those type of drivers. So it's not going to be these guys from the back that come up and win. So you're going to want to have those guys in there. But the other thing is, a lot of people will tell you just stack the back and throw one guy that's up front. I don't think that's the way to go. So I like to look at the past optimal lineups to build mine. So on average, you had 1.2 drivers starting inside of top 12 in every optimal lineup. On average, you had 1.7 drivers starting from 13 to 25 in every optimal lineup. And on average, you have 3.1 drivers starting 26 on back in the optimal lineup. Now, these are just the starting ranges I like to use. I don't know, this is just a range that I've always used, and it's worked out pretty well for me, so I like using this range. But, I mean, you can use any range you want, and of course, you can sub to the Patreon, you'll get these, and you can use any range you want. You can fool around with it, do whatever you want with it. But that's just a range that I like to use. So for me, when I'm making my lineups, I'm using an optimizer. I'm setting a rule for at least one driver in the top 12, at least one driver in that 13 to 25 range, and then at least 3 from 26 on back. Yeah, 3. And there's guys 26 on back. It's not just garbage cans. There's some good drivers who have had success here. So, I mean, that's what I'm doing, and then, I mean, that leaves one more spot, and I let the optimizer fill it out so that I can have, maybe one lineup with 4 guys in the back, or maybe one lineup with 2 guys in the top 12, maybe one lineup with 2 guys from 13 to 25. So, it's just, that's how it'll fill out the lineups for you. So, I think strategy is just so important in this on plate races more than picks. Like, I mean, I'll talk to you about the picks, but each individual driver itself, because it's just such a race with a ton of attrition, a ton of variance, where it's not going to be a track where you can really just pick out who's going to win. Now, there are some drivers that do succeed better at these plate races, which we'll talk about, but still, like, I don't think that that's as important as making your lineup construction. And, like, this strategy that I'm giving you for tournaments only, like, don't use this for cash. Like, I don't know how many times I got stressed that don't use this for cash games. If you're playing tournaments, it's the way to go. Even if you're playing just single entries, I wouldn't use this. This is only mass field tournaments where you're maxing out the field. For like tournaments, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, you're gonna have races where all your lineups don't cash, but if one of them can win the whole thing, like in the Xfinity Series race a few weeks ago, I had a runner-up finish in a tournament, and it was a crash away on the last lap from being first, which was unfortunate. But that day, I had just did a 20 max for the Xfinity Series race, and only 2 of my lineups cashed. 18 of my lineups didn't even make money. One of them like just doubled up, and the other one was second place. So like, it's not going to be a day where you're going to have like 70% of your lineups are going to cash. Like, no, that's not going to happen more than likely unless there's no wrecks. But come on, I mean, yeah, Talladega summer, which was summer this year race, yeah, there were like no wrecks, but that was like an anomaly. There's like one of those every few years, but for the most part, it's not going to happen. But I think that's really all I got to say on the strategy part of it. If you want to ask me more questions about strategy, you can always leave me comments in below. Of course, you can always follow me on Twitter too. I'll answer questions over there for sure. And you can always, of course, the Patreon, I'll be active over there as well. So be sure to go check that out. But I think we'll get into the picks because I really think that's what people really want to hear, even though I don't think it's as important. But we'll get into them, where I sorted them by starting position. Usually I sort them by salary, but this week we decided to sort them by starting position, and we'll go through the groups. So we have the top 12 starting positions, which are the 12 drivers that are still in the playoffs. Denny Hamlin, Kurt Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Alex Bowman, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Clint Bowyer, Chase Elliott, Eric Almirola, Austin Dillon. All right, well, I mean, we all know Denny Hamlin's elite at Daytona, but he really hasn't been, like, fantastic at Talladega. I mean, 8th best average finish there. But he does have the 2nd overall best average finish at the plate tracks. I mean, he's just been very, very good here at these plate tracks over the course of his career. So, I mean, it's definitely someone you want to play. But, like, again, he starts on a pole, so, like, he can only go back. The only way he's in that optimal lineup, honestly, is if he leads some laps and he wins the race. More than likely, that's it. Unless all these other guys up front wreck, he's probably hitting it very, very not. It's a non-zero chance that he's going to hit it, but it's very, very limited in my opinion for him to hit that optimal. Now we have seen pole sitters do it. I mean, Justin Haley did it in the Xfinity Series race at Talladega earlier this year, but he won and he led a bunch of laps. So we'll see what Hamlin does. Kurt Busch coming off a win last week. I don't really expect him to push it too hard. I mean, he's locked into the next round, so I don't think he'll probably try to make a late race run, but like, I don't expect him to really push it. Now, Martin Truex Jr. is someone I always stay away from the plate races. I mean, he's bad at these plate tracks. He has, literally, I think he's finished 2 in the last 3 years in a race, and they've both been in the summer Daytona race, which was earlier this year, and when 2018, I think he finished 2nd. So he's just bad at these plate tracks. He always somehow finds a way to wreck or just not run well. It's like for Martin Truex Jr., he really doesn't even run well during these races. If you watch him, he's never really up towards the front. This is just not a thing that really appeals to him. So if there is if there's a guy to look to go away from, I think Truex is definitely one. Alex Bowman, he's fine. I mean, never seemed to be an elite super speedway racer, but I don't think you really have to win this race or be in an optimal lineup. So he's fine. Kevin Harvick, another one. He'll hang around there all day probably if he doesn't get wrecked. Could win the race. He's been great this year, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him win. He's fine. Kyle Busch, I think, is someone who actually could very, very much win this race. Kyle Busch has, kind of been a clutch driver his entire career. Made the big moves when he needed to, and he hasn't won a race yet this year. He's not in the playoff next round. He's 9 points behind the cut line for the playoffs right now. A win here would be so, so huge for his season. So, and Kyle Busch always seems to wreck at the plate races. I mean, if you look at his average finish, it's not good. 17th best average finish at Daytona, 26 at plate races. But when you watch these plate races, Kyle Busch will be running up front. He'll be leading laps. He'll be up towards the front of the race the whole time. He just ends up wrecking. And, I mean, it sucks, but, that's what happens. But, I mean, I'm not going to try to predict who's going to wreck and who's not going to wreck. You just can't really do that stuff in these types of races. So, I do think Kyle Busch is a fine option. I think he's someone that is going to need a race. When we saw Brad Keselowski do it a few years ago, where he needed to win at Talladega to move on to the next round, or he was out, and he won at Talladega. And I know it's 2 completely different drivers, but we know Kyle Busch has come up clutch time and time again. I don't think he's ever won at Dega in the Cup Series. I don't know if he's ever won a plate track in the Cup Series, honestly. I feel like he might have won a July Daytona race, but I'm pretty sure he's never won. I know he's never won Talladega, so definitely someone that I want to get into lineups this week just because of the situation more than anything. Brad Keselowski, he always seems to do well at these tracks, or run well at these tracks until he ends up wrecking. I mean, look, 26th best average finish, 28th at plate tracks, but like, we'll see Brad running up towards the front the whole race, and then he'll make a block, and then someone will block him, and he won't lift, and he'll wreck the whole field. So it'll probably happen, but I mean, he's just someone who always rides around up front and then always seems to get wrecked out. I'm going to try to bet on wrecks. I mean, if he's riding around up front, I want to play him. Joey Logano is probably the most popular play in this range, honestly, because he's just been fantastic at Talladega for years and years and years. Second best average finish here, sixth best at plate tracks. I mean, he always is controlling the field. He'll lead a ton of laps. Like, Team Penske will more than likely dominate this race. I mean, because all three of their guys are very good here, and then Benedetto works with them, and he's also good at Vegas. So, yeah, Logano definitely someone that I think has got a lot of upside here that a lot of people are going to play, and I'm not going to tell you not to play him. I think he's a solid option. Clint Bowyer, I think he's fine, 8,300. I mean, again, just a guy who can hang around all day, stay out of trouble, win a race maybe, so definitely someone I like. Chase Elliott's going to be popular because he always is, and he won a race at Talladega. I think, what was it, last year? I think he won the summer race at Talladega, but outside that, really doesn't ever run too well. Does still have the ninth best average finish, but he's not a guy that I really see out front leading laps of these types of races. I mean, finished second in summer Daytona race, but didn't lead one lap. I mean, I think he's fine. It's just, I mean, I think if he's going to be popular, like, I think that's something to definitely look at for tomorrow's race is ownership and how ownership's working out. And if Chase Elliott's going to be popular, I'll probably fade. Worked for me in the spring Daytona or Talladega race. I don't hate going into that again. So, Eric Almirola starts 11th. Eric Almirola is someone that I do like a lot. I mean, best average finish at Daytona, fourth at plate tracks. This is by far his strength in NASCAR is plate racing. He's probably one of the best in NASCAR right now at plate tracks. Always seems to be up front, contending for every single win at these types of races. We've seen him win at Talladega before. We've seen him win Daytona before. He finished third at Talladega earlier this year and was, in contention for the win the whole time. So he's definitely someone I have my eye on. Austin Dillon's fine. I mean, just another driver who can hang around up there and really contend for the win. But he's fine. The next tier we have Matt Benedetto, Ryan Blaney, Chris Buescher, Eric Jones, Jimmy Johnson, Cole Custer, Ryan Newman, Matt Kenseth, William Byron, Christopher Bell, John Hunter Nemechek, Michael McDowell, and Ryan Preece. First guy we'll talk about is Matt Benedetto, another driver who seems to run well, and he also will fall around the Penske cars. We'll talk about Blaney next. I mean, these guys are very good here at the plate races, very good, Talladega specifically, and they will run up front. I'm sure there will be times in this race where they are controlling the race. Those four cars will be 1, 2, 3, 4. Matt Benedetto, if you didn't know, is his team is affiliated with Team Penske, so he rides around with them. He runs with them as well. So, like Matty D, Ryan Blaney, he's won the last two Talladega races, and he just seems to be elite at plate tracks, like just elite. One of the best in the business, and him and Logano together are like dangerous. It's tough to pass them when they're up front. So definitely someone I want to get exposure to is Ryan Blaney. Chris Buescher's fine. I mean, he can hang around up front. Like, he's just another guy that, he's an equipment that can ride around. He could do well. Eric Jones, he seemed to have pretty decent success at these tracks. I mean, honestly, if he didn't get door slammed at Talladega on the last lap by Blaney, he probably would have won earlier this year. Seen him win Daytona before. We've seen him have good runs at these types of tracks, at these plate races, and a win for him would be huge. He's trying to find a ride, so a win for Eric Jones would be absolutely massive right now for his career. So definitely someone to keep an eye on, definitely someone I want to get some exposure to. Jimmy Johnson's another one who, end of his career, this is his last season. He wants to end it with a win. A win would be absolutely storybook ending to his career would be right here, Talladega. So definitely someone I want to get some exposure to. Cole Custer, he's fine, just another guy who can hang around there. Same thing with Ryan Newman, who seems to run pretty well these types of tracks. Barely lost last year to Ryan Blaney by a nose. So, but I will say that Roush team, in the past, they have looked fast at the plate tracks, but this year they really haven't. I mean, we didn't see outside the Daytona 500 where Newman almost won before flipping across the line. Outside of that, the other plate races that he has not looked fast at all. So he's maybe someone to stay away from. Matt Kenseth, I just don't want to play because it's Matt Kenseth at this point. I just don't really trust him. But again, he's a car that could just hang around there and do fine. William Byron, though, definitely someone I want to get some exposure to. We saw him win Daytona earlier this year, or a month ago, honestly. He's eliminated from the playoffs, but of course with like another win. He seems to always do well at these plate tracks. More often Daytona than Talladega, but he does seem to do pretty well at these plate races. So he's definitely someone to keep an eye on. Someone I think could contend for the win again, lead some laps. So definitely someone I like. Christopher Bell, another guy who's just fine, just hanging around up there. Now, John Hunter Nemechek has raced 3 plate races, and he has been elite. He has the best average finish at plate tracks in NASCAR. It's crazy. Third best at Talladega, too. He finished 8th last year, or earlier this year. I mean, was on in that crazy finish there. So definitely someone to have some exposure to is John Hunter Nemechek. I mean, he finds a way to wreck at all the races where, not a lot of wrecks are, but when he comes to these plate tracks and the road courses, he does really well. So, I don't know. Maybe that's all going to catch up to him, but I'll get some exposure to John Hunter Nemechek. Michael McDowell is number 1, who should run pretty well, although I will say, over the course of his career, Daytona's been like 10 times better than Talladega, so he's definitely someone who I little tamper my expectations a little bit, but I think he's still fine. And Ryan Preece seems to always run well at Talladega. 7th best average finish here, so definitely someone I like. And then last tier, where we're going to want like 3 of these guys in our lineup. So look at these guys. They're going to be over. If you're like me, I'm going to be so overweight on all of these guys. You have Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Bubba Wallace, Ty Dillon, Corey LaJoie, Tyler Reddick, Daniel Suarez, Brennan Poole. I'm not going to talk about Half or Yaley. Yaley's not even racing, so that's Cody Ware this week. And then Timmy Hill and Brendan Gaughan, the GOAT. So we'll start with Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who, this is all he's pretty much good at. NASCAR, very, very, very good plate racer, very aggressive plate racer. He's either going to wreck the field or finish like in the top 3. We saw him lose by a nose to Blaney at Dega earlier this summer. So he's definitely someone who has speed at the plate races. We've seen him have success at these tracks. We've seen him win at both Talladega and Daytona before. So definitely someone who I think everyone would like to see get a win. I think that would make everybody happy. Bubba Wallace seems to always be in contention in the plate races, but more likely Daytona than Talladega. But still someone who can ride around up there and contend for a win. What a huge win that would be for him this year. Ty Dillon starts 28th, and he's always someone who seems to stay out of trouble and find a way to finish inside that top 15. 12th best average finish at Dega, 8th plate track. So definitely someone I want to get some exposure to is Ty Dillon. Corey LaJoie is another one who seems to always find a way to run really, really well. Tyler Reddick starts 30th, and we saw him win a stage at Talladega earlier this year, and he was in first place with like 4 laps to go. So Tyler Reddick, definitely someone who's found speed at the plate tracks this year, especially Talladega. Starts 30th. He's going to be really popular, but I don't see any reason to get away from him. I don't want to play Suarez. Unless there's a million wrecks and he just stays out of it, which is possible. He's probably not going to be in the optimal lineup. His car's probably not fast enough to hang up there. Brennan Poole actually seems to find a way, another driver, same thing as Suarez, but he's been the 2 optimal lineups for the plate race this year. Daytona, both Daytona races has been the optimal, so I think he's definitely someone that could be viable, but you're going to need a lot of wrecks for him to really pay off, which is, it's Talladega, it could happen, but I'll probably play some Brennan Poole, but I'm not going to get a ton of exposure to him. I'm not going to talk about Half, I'm not going to talk about Yaley, but Timmy Hill. Okay, I hope you stayed this long because Timmy Hill's actually really important this week. Timmy Hill's not going to be in a car that's not going to be relevant anymore. Like, we've seen Timmy Hill, throughout years now. He's just a guy who rides around the back. Well, this week he has he's driving an equipment from Corey LaJoie's Go Fast Racing team. Now, that's not great equipment or anything, but it's equipment that's good enough to run around up inside the main pack. He can hang with the field and he can contend now. This is going to be a guy that's probably not going to get any ownership at all. Because no one wants to play Timmy Hill, and not a lot of people are going to know that he's in better equipment now. So Timmy Hill, very, very, very viable this week. If he wrecks, oh well, so be it. But he's in good equipment now, and we've seen him in the Xfinity Series race run well at Talladega. We saw him get or at plate races. We saw him get a 3rd place finish at Daytona earlier this year. He knows what he's doing at these types of tracks. Just never in the equipment good enough. And now he's in equipment that's at least good enough to ride around in the field. We've seen Corey LaJoie get top 10s plenty of times in that same equipment. And honestly, I would not be surprised if Timmy Hill is just a better driver than Corey LaJoie. So this is someone that I'm definitely want some exposure on that nobody's going to play at all. Because nobody knows it. Everyone just thinks Timmy Hill's going to be riding around in the same equipment. And because it's not common knowledge now that Timmy Hill's in good stuff. So I'm going to play some Timmy Hill this week. I'm going to be overweight the field on Timmy Hill. And that's not a lot to be overweight the field on Timmy Hill. But I think he's definitely someone to look for. And then Brendan Gaughan is going to be the highest owned driver. He's 9,500, but I don't really care. Brendan Gaughan has been in the optimal lineup so many times in his plate races. He's been in every one this year. He's literally been the optimal line of every single plate race this year. This is the final race of his career. He has the 13th best average finish at these tracks. He finds a way to end up inside that top 10, it feels like, every single race. So definitely someone I want to get some exposure on. Starts dead last. He can't hurt you at all. Well, he can because he's 9,500, but realistically, he probably won't. He can't go anywhere back. He starts dead last. So Brendan Gaughan, the GOAT at plate tracks. This is it. This is the last time we're ever going to see Brendan Gaughan. I'm sad, but that's what's going to happen. So, but yeah, I think that's really all I got to say in this video. I hope you guys got a lot of good information. Thank you guys so much for checking this out. Good luck. It's Talladega. Great race. Enjoy watching the race. If you're watching this on Saturday, be sure to check out my Xfinity Series and Truck Series video. I already got those out for you. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and hope you guys have a great weekend watching NASCAR football. Baseball starts on Monday, and NBA Finals.